Jaden Ivey rolled his ankle in the last Detroit Pistons Summer League game against the Washington Wizards. If he is done for the rest of Summer League, what did Jaden Ivey already show Pistons fans through the 2 games that he did play? We'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. We're on our road to 5,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On that we are the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So we did not have an episode on Monday, and since the Pistons' last Summer League game on Saturday, well, technically some things happened that day of Saturday, but since that game, there's been a few things that have happened for the Pistons over the last few days that we're going to talk about in today's episode. There's probably a few things I want to hit on. We'll probably not attack everything that I want to talk about that's happened over the last few days, and some players I want to give some props to, but we'll eventually talk about it throughout this week. Talk about Jaden obviously opening up, but then also talk about the news with Killian Hayes and some of these other guys that are showing some stuff in Summer League for the Pistons. But I want to start off, obviously, with Jaden Ivey. So Jaden Ivey in the Pistons' first quarter game, in the first quarter of their game against the Washington Wizards, in which they won 105-99, he did roll his ankle. He shot a three, and a guy slid up underneath him, twisted his ankle. It doesn't look like it's that serious. It looked like that he was trying to get back into the game after they took him out. He did end up limping off the court after shooting 3 free throws. They got him out the game, but it sounded like that he was trying to get back into the game and they weren't letting him get back in. And then after the game, he tweeted that he was all right. It's nothing serious. He'll be straight. So I'm going to assume that there's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing well, I'm not going to say nothing's wrong with him. Obviously, he has a rolled ankle, but I don't think anything too serious is wrong with him. I don't think there's anything to be too worried about or too concerned about at all. But I do think that they'll probably, if it was me, I'm taking a guess here. We haven't got anything confirmed yet, but I'm going to take a guess that they hold him out for the rest of Summer League. You already got one injury scare. There's no need to risk it any further, in my opinion. Once you get injury scare in Summer League with one of your top picks, if he survives that one, you shut it down right there. So for me, I believe he's probably done in Summer League. And if he is done in Summer League, what did he show Pistons fans through? Maybe not even. I shouldn't even say 2 games. Really, it's just a game and a quarter. What did he show through a game and a quarter? And before I talk about some of the things he showed, I just want to make sure I say this for all of you guys and that everyone make sure they keep this in their head. It's Summer League. It is Summer League. You don't want to overreact to the bad too much. You don't want to overreact to the good too much. You don't want to go too crazy with anything. You should take a lot of this with a grain of salt. There's some things you can look into. Like, for example, I remember when I was riding over at, I believe it was Piston Powered at this time I was riding at, or Detroit Bad Boys, one of the two. And it was the Summer League with Bruce Brown. And I didn't take away his scoring or his finishing around the rim or some outside shooting. But what I did say was going to translate from Summer League at the time, that was going to translate in Summer League into that regular season for the Pistons, was his passing accuracy, his passing vision, his playmaking ability, the way he was making reads. Those are the kind of things I feel like you can draw away from Summer League, because if you're improving on making reads, if that's what you're trying to work on, that's what Bruce was working on at that time, I feel like that's the kind of thing that can translate. Being able to finish at the rim and be faster and stronger than everybody. I saw that with Stanley Johnson, DeJuan Summers, all these guys. So a lot of that stuff, it's just hard to take a lot of this, is what I'm saying, to give you guys a comparison. It's just hard to take a lot of this with, just take it with a grain of salt is basically what I'm saying. However, I think Jaden Ivey showed that he's going to be a problem in transition for the Detroit Pistons. I think that's quite clear right off the bat. I feel like people knew that before they drafted him, just wherever he ended up. I feel like everyone knew that he probably was going to be a pretty big problem in transition, a pretty big problem in fast break, semi-transition, off of live rebounds, off of steals, pushing it off of even a made bucket. All those type of situations right there where the defenses are not set and they're not, ready for him when they're kind of scrambling and trying to get set. All of those situations, I think he's going to absolute murder teams. I sincerely believe that he'll probably be one of the best players in the NBA at it already in his rookie season. He's just that kind of explosive athlete. He gets to the rim very quickly. I met up with one of my friends. He's been on the podcast a few times, and a lot of you guys referred me to be the host of this podcast because you guys heard me on his podcast, #Pistons. Joe Truck. I met up with him this past weekend. We were kind of talking about the Pistons. We were going out to eat and everything, but we were talking about the Pistons, and he showed me that highlight of Jaden Ivey splitting that double team in the first game at the top of the key and then getting to the rim and, double clutching it at the rim. And one of the things he pointed out to me, which I noticed, but I didn't really focus too much on, and I probably should have, is the fact that he only took one dribble from basically like a step beyond the three-point line to the rim, and he was at the rim with ease, like before anybody else, quickly. Not only did he get there on one dribble with the footwork and everything, but he was so quick that all he needed was one dribble. He still beat everybody to the basket, to the rim, and was able to explode and finish at the rim. Being able to get to the rim on minimal dribbles, being able to create for yourself on minimal dribbles because of the type of athlete you are, the kind of balance that you have, and the ability to finish around them, all those kind of things combined into one. If you're able to do it on minimal dribbles, that's a really good sign for me, especially, like I said, in transition. If you can get up and down the floor in transition in like 2 to 3 dribbles and you're already at the basket, like D Rose used to do in his prime. Like if you're able to do that kind of thing, it's going to be absolutely impossible to stop you. It's going to be tough. So I think he showed through the game in one quarter already is that if defenses are not set and he's able to attack in transition or semi-transition or in fast breaks or off of live rebounds or off of steals or even trying to push the tempo off of made bucket, if you can get him attacking a scrambling defense or a retreating defense, it's going to be incredibly hard to stop him without fouling. Completely hard to stop without fouling him. And I definitely expect him to draw a lot of fouls because of this. I think teams are going to have to foul him in the regular season to stop him in those scenarios. So I think he showed that, and that's incredibly fun to see and know that the Pistons finally have a player like that. I can't remember the last time they had a player like that. I can't even think of the last player they had that would be that kind of explosive threat as an athlete in those situations. I can't think of one. You probably would have to go back probably to Grant Hill. Maybe if someone asked for that, I don't know. I don't think I would say one, but you guys let me know. But yes, I think that's where he's going to really excel and play really well. I think his outside shot is I have a lot of questions about it translating in his rookie season and his NBA career because it is a little wonky to me, a little bit of a push shot. Any shot can work with enough repetitions if you get it down pat and muscle memory, all that. If you played basketball, you understand that. Even the worst form, if you get enough repetition with it, enough muscle memory where it's just going in like that, the worst form can go in. However, as of right now, before seeing him in the NBA, I think the outside shot will be streaky at best. I think it'll probably be streaky. And I think you saw some of the things that he has to improve on in the half court is definitely, again, I think he'll be good attacking scrambling defenses off of Cade kickouts or, drawing a double team on the pick and roll and swinging it instantly to the wing. And then he's able to attack guys trying to get back. And so I think he'll be great in that. But creating for himself with the ball in his hands, creating for himself and others in the pick and roll, I think he's probably going to struggle a decent amount with that in his rookie season based on what I saw in the Summer League and from what was said about him before the Summer League, because he really does. It looks like he doesn't know how exactly to play in between the three-point line and the rim, which is fine. It's perfectly fine. He's a rookie. He's going to get better at that. You need to develop that. That's the whole point. But I think that these are the kind of things that he showed in Summer League that you could probably guess you will see at the very least the beginning of his rookie season. That's what I'm saying. I think he's going to be great in semi-transition, fast break, all that stuff I told you guys about, scrambling defenses. I think he's going to be absolutely sensational against those kind of things. I think he's going to draw a lot of fouls, get a lot of free throws. I think he's going to give Detroit something they haven't had in a long time in those kind of opportunities or situations. But I do think that it was clear that he has stuff that he has to work on. And again, I want to make sure you guys hear me. That's fine. It's not like some big criticism. He's a rookie. He has to develop these things. But I think you saw the parts that has to be developed. His in-between game, his decision-making, be able to change speeds. Right now, it looks like that he really just has one speed, which is, again, in those situations that I talked about that he'll be good at, it's perfect. It's great because you're just going to be faster than everybody. But in the half court, you have to know how to change speeds to create advantages for yourself, catch defenses off guard, and create opportunities for yourself and others. So I think you saw that's where he's going to struggle with at the beginning of his career. He's going to have to improve in that to really reach to his ceiling, which we hope he does. He has obviously a lot of time to do that. But I think if he is done through a game and a quarter, Pistons fans can be really happy and feel confident that they have a guy who's going to be an absolute monster in transition, an absolute monster in fast breaks, an absolute monster off of steals, live rebounds, all those kind of things. Playing in a fast-paced offense, I think, is really going to help him a ton. He'll dominate that, I think. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him. Again, that's going to be the best way I describe him. I think it's going to be, at the very least, it's going to be incredibly fun to watch Jaden Ivey play basketball for the Pistons. He's going to make the Pistons fun. Him and Kate, all the other guys, but Jaden Ivey himself, I think, is really going to make this a lot of fun to watch. So that's my takeaway through a game and a quarter if he is done. Let me know what you guys take away from his game and a quarter if he is done because of the ankle injury in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill if you listen to this on the podcast platforms. When we come back, we got some news about Killian Hayes, some confusing things that happened this past weekend with Killian Hayes. We're going to talk about that and what my takeaway is and what I think about all of it in the next segment. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, your guys' favorite sponsor, Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given Coconut Brownie Chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right, the Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a delicious, chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling and listen. They are good for you. Low calories, low sugar, high protein, and absolutely delicious. Coconut Brownie Chunk Puffs are only here for a limited time. Go to Built.com now to make sure you don't miss out. They're going to go out fast because they taste absolutely amazing. And I tell you guys this all the time. If you're like Built.com is constantly coming out with brand new limited time flavors. So make sure you're constantly checking out Built.com to see all these flavors. I can't guarantee that they'll be there by the time you get there. That's why you need to be checking up on there all the time because they go away quickly. So make sure you're going to Built.com to check out the Brownie Chunk Puff Bars while they're there. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, that they taste amazing, but you can also enjoy them guilt-free because they are actually really good for you. They're the perfect treat, perfect when you got a craving, you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or if you need a quick, healthy snack, they're an excellent source of protein. Delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing about it. Get to Built.com to order your box of Coconut Brownie Chunk Puff Bars right now. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15. Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. We're on our road to 5,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On the way the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. You guys have been showing a ton of love over the past month and a half or so, 2 months. We've been going crazy, continuing to show. Like I said, Locked On, we are the best out there. We're Locked On Pistons, this fan base, Pistons fan base, we're the best out there. Continue to show that support and really appreciate you guys. All right, so this past weekend, Killian Hayes did not play in this game against the Washington Wizards. And if you did not know that beforehand, you must be living under a rock or something. But if you're not living under a rock and you happen to just not know it for some reason, I'm sure you're probably sitting here pretty confused. Like, wait, why didn't Killian play? You just recorded a podcast last week saying that there's a report that Killian Hayes will be watched the closest of all these guys in Summer League and that his performance in Summer League will help them dictate somewhat how they feel about him moving forward. You would be correct. I did do that. I did record a podcast, I believe last Friday, saying those exact things. And there was a report from The Athletic, and it was the Pistons beat writer James Edwards III, and he said that he believed that Killian Hayes would be watched the closest in this Summer League, and he anticipated that Killian Hayes would play all of these games. And you guys can go check out the article over at The Athletic if you have an Athletic subscription, which I encourage you guys to have, not just for the Pistons stuff, but across the NBA. If you're into the NFL, all that stuff, that I have it. It's a great source. But within that article, he talked about basically that he'll be watched the closest. He expects him to play the majority of the games, and that his performance in this Summer League will dictate how they feel about the immediate future with him moving forward. Not that they would like waive him or trade him or something if they thought that he didn't play as well as they wanted, but it would give them like an idea how to feel about him basically. And everyone took this, and it was basically assumed that this would be a pretty important Summer League for Killian Hayes. I got to a point where it almost felt like Killian Hayes was getting more press about the Summer League than Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, the rookies who are expected to play in a summer league. So you had all of that heading into the summer league. Okay. Killian plays game 1. I've said on the podcast, I thought he looked like a third-year player. When he did get the ball in his hands, he just continued to make the right read over and over and over. He didn't look rushed at all. He looked completely composed, just did everything he wanted to do basically out there when it comes to creating the offense and having the offense go. He got a good shot for somebody or himself. He only took 4 shots, but I feel like all the shots that he created for himself, which I believe were only like 3 or whatever, or for someone else, it was a great job. He looked like he was a third-year player, like I said. He looked like he was a veteran and knew what he was doing out there, like he didn't really need to be out there, in my opinion. That's what it looked like. However, again, heading into the summer league, it was said that it was going to be focused, they were going to be looking at his scoring, see if he had developed as a scorer, shooting-wise, all those kind of things. Heck, even on the broadcast, while the Pistons' first summer league game, Dwayne Casey said, Killian Hayes, he brings us all this other stuff, size, all the other stuff he's already really good at, but we need to see his shooting. His shooting has to become consistent. So even Dwayne Casey somewhat echoed it on the broadcast. So it was a little bit shocking, and I talked about this on the podcast, that we saw him play off ball as much as we did in that first game. He didn't really get the ball in his hands a lot. He wasn't asked to run a lot of pick and rolls. He wasn't asked to be put in scoring positions. He was really playing off ball in a 3-guard lineup with Ivey and Saban Lee. And you guys remember my rant about Saban Lee in that first game. He just didn't really touch the ball a lot. Killian didn't really touch the ball a lot. And it was confusing the entire time because of everything we thought moving into Summer League, that we thought this was going to be, he was going to be running the show. He was going to be running a ton of pick and rolls with Duren or Isaiah Stewart, pick and pops with Isaiah Stewart. He was going to be put in a lot of positions where they tell him, hey, go score. We're going to set you up this. Try score. Show us what you can do. And that not only did that not happen in the first game, he then got shut down after the first game. So it was just very confusing, and to be honest, it kind of is still a little bit confusing because the report beforehand, like we talked about, said this summer league he would be watched really closely, and they thought that or at least James Edwards, the third of the Athletic, said, and it wasn't just him, there was other people, but from this article, he expected Killian to play the majority of these games, if not all of them. And obviously, like I said, all the other stuff with the scoring, and expect him to see his shooting and his ability to create for himself and get to the rim, all that kind of stuff. So the fact that we didn't get to see, they didn't put him in the position to do those said things, and then after the game, then shut him down for the rest of Summer League, it doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense. So for those of you guys that are confused about it and expecting me to give you an answer about it, I'm just as confused. I don't really have a great answer. My best answer that I can give, and this was kind of actually, it wasn't really the answer they gave. The answer that we were given by Coach Brink was that the plan was always to give him one game, and that was it for him. He was only going to play one game, and that was it for Killian. So if that was the plan all along, the reporting beforehand and what we thought moving in just kind of, I don't know, I don't know what to think about that. Like, it's kind of like, it just confuses me. If that was the plan all along, why were you guys putting out the team, not everyone else, but it's because the writers get it from the team. Why is the team kind of putting out the message that this is going to be what, you're expecting? So it definitely is a confusing situation with Killian. But either way, if you want to take away what Coach Brink said and just assume that was a lie, that it was always one game, you want to just throw that to the side, which I'm not going to. If I'm telling you guys right now, you guys should believe him. I think that was probably the plan then. But if you want to go a different route, I think this probably had a lot to do with it as well, is that they saw the one Summer League game. Killian looked like a third-year vet. He looked like how he always did on offense with the passing. He made the right read over and over. He was getting trapped a lot when he did get the ball in his hands, so he wasn't really able to try to score. He was getting double teamed a lot. And if you guys didn't watch that game, you guys don't remember, I literally did a whole thread of each time he touched the ball, and he got double teamed or trapped, like I'd say probably 70% of the time. So they saw that he was getting trapped a lot. They saw that he didn't get the ball a lot, and he wasn't going to get the ball a lot in lineups with Saban Lee and Jaden Ivey, who they probably want to get more reps. Felt like them getting more reps was probably more important than Killian at this point right here. So I think they saw those two things, saw that he was going to spend a lot of his time off ball. I think they also saw that he got dinged up a few times already, got hit in the elbow to the face, and he had a busted lip while he was playing, right above his lip, whatever. I think they saw those things, combined with the fact that maybe their plan always was to just probably play him one game. along with the fact that he looked like the floor general out there. He looked like he knew exactly what he was doing. He looked like he was the third-year guy out there. They probably just said, yeah, you know what? He's not really going to gain anything from this. This isn't really like worth it for him to play and potentially get hurt. He's not really gaining anything from being out here. We know what he's able to do. He showed us it. It is what he's not. If you want to see him improve scoring, he's not going to get it here. He'd get better reps in by playing pickup somewhere or continuing his training somewhere. For me, that's why I think they probably said. I think they probably saw the first game. It was like, we saw enough. We know what we're getting with Killian. If we want him to get these scoring reps and these on-ball reps, he has a better chance of getting those outside of this when we want to see really Jaden Ivey and want to give Saban Lee his last chance, basically. He probably has a better chance of doing this in a pickup or training, basically. So I think that was my read on it. That's what my read is currently on it. I do believe that they probably had a plan to play him one game then, since the coach said that. But I'm not going to lie. The whole situation really was confusing from the get-go. And I get why a lot of you guys were confused. I saw a lot of you guys' reaction on my YouTube comments and on Twitter tweeting me like, what's going on? I thought we were going to see a lot of Killian Hayes. I thought we were too. It was a confusing situation. It definitely at first didn't make a lot of sense based on what we believed. But yeah, that's where we're at. And we're not going to see, it doesn't sound like we're going to see Killian Hayes the rest of the Summer League, which is fine. Again, I believe he looked like a third-year guy out there. I don't think he really was gaining anything from being out there and playing off ball. I do agree. If that's their analysis and assessment, that he'll get more out of just not playing Summer League and getting reps in pickup or in training that they have specified for him, I'd agree with that. And I don't think it's worth him getting injured in Summer League and losing some of his offseason to develop. So that's where we're at with Killian Hayes. You will not be seeing him the rest of the Summer League. You may not be seeing Jaden Ivey the rest of the Summer League. So those two guys are two of the biggest guys people are probably watching for this Summer League. So with those two guys out, what else is there to watch? What is the point to keep watching? Well, there's been a few other guys that have given you probably a pretty big reason to want to keep watching and give you some reason to be happy about them moving forward. We'll talk about those guys and what they've shown in the upcoming segment. But first, you guys got to hear about some of our lovely sponsors. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to our YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. We're on our road to 5,000 subscribers. Continuing to show Locked On, we're the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So if you haven't already, go ahead to the YouTube channel. Do that for me. I'd really appreciate it. All right, so Jaden Ivey, I think probably is done for the rest of the Summer League. Killian Hayes, done for the rest of the Summer League. Obviously, Kay Cunningham, Sadiq Bey never touched the floor in Summer League, which they shouldn't have. So what is there to watch now? What's the point to keep watching? Well, I'm not going to say Isaiah Stewart because I think Isaiah Stewart may also be done. He played 2 games. I think 2 or 3 games probably was his max to play in Summer League. I don't think he was going to play the entire Summer League. So I think at most he probably plays 1 more. If not, I think he might be done already. So with that out there and him may not be, suiting up again, I'm not going to use Isaiah Stewart. Even though he has shown some things. We talked about him on the podcast a few times already, but some of the things he's shown. But I'm not going to talk about him for the reason I just said. There are 2 other guys, though, that I feel like are demanding some respect from Pistons fans. One of these guys I feel like was already gaining respect from the Pistons based off his performance last season, especially on this podcast. And another guy is a newcomer. First guy we'll talk about is Isaiah Livers, the guy that was kind of impressive last season already. Isaiah Livers, this past game against the Wizards, 20 points, 4 or 5 shooting from deep, 5 of 8 from the floor, 20 points and 8 shots. Insanely efficient. Insanely efficient. He shot 6 of 7 from the free throw line. Even in his first game, he shot horribly from the field. 1 of 8 from deep. I believe it was like 3 of 10 from the floor overall. Didn't shoot very well, but still through 2 games, even in that game, I thought he played extraordinarily well. I thought he did exactly what you want to see from him outside of hitting shots, which I don't think anyone's worried about him being able to hit outside shots. He's a shooter. I don't think anyone's reading too much into him having 1 bad game or something like shooting the ball. He's a shooter. Guys are going to miss shots sometimes. It is what it is. So you want to see the other stuff. And I think Isaiah Livers has shown, to me, to be honest, I think he's been the most impressive person in Summer League. And I think if you want to be unbiased, I think Isaiah Livers, out of everybody that could possibly win the starting forward position, if you just took everything out, all the biases out, I think Isaiah Livers, if you're just going off the 2 Summer League games, which you should not, absolutely, the Pistons won't, and they shouldn't. It should go all the way to training camp and actual preseason, actual games played against real competition. But through Summer League can't just be nothing. We have to take something from it and read into it. I think Isaiah Livers has given his best audition for the starting 4 spot. I think he's impressed people the most, to be honest. The way he talks on defense, we talked about it last year, just exceptional. Always talking on defense, knows the terminology. He talked about how much, I believe one of the beat writers asked him after the last game, how did you get so, accustomed to NBA defenses? How did you, come into the NBA ready to talk so much on defense, knowing what to say, knowing terminology, all this kind of stuff. And he mentioned that Juwan Howard really drilled that into his team at Michigan, NBA terminology and being ready for the NBA, which I absolutely love. This is a little side quick rant real quick. I know college basketball is like its own separate thing, and like college coaches should be, I guess they need to win on their level, obviously, to keep their jobs. So they need to be coaching for what works on their jobs. But to be honest, I really like the coaches who are setting their players up for the NBA and setting up for what's going to come in the NBA, not just, like the teams that just run zone in college and, don't run NBA talent stuff to get their players ready for the NBA. So when their players get drafted, they're way behind other players. I don't really like that. It's just one of those things. Another thing why I don't like college basketball is just one of those things that really irks me, because you're kind of setting your players up for failure when they get to the next. In my opinion, that's just how I read it. So I really like the fact that Juwan Howard is doing that apparently in Michigan, because it gets that you get the product like you do with Livers. Livers is extremely ready. He knows exactly what to do. It gets him on the floor, and he's proven already to be a pretty good piece for the Pistons rotation moving forward with their young core. So again, defensively knows how to talk. He has these scram switches, which if you don't know what a scram switch is, let's say, Killian Hayes is guarding or Saban Lee is guarding his guy at the top of the key. They run a pick and roll against Saban Lee. And Isaiah Stewart gets switched out on the point guard, and now Saban Lee switched out on the center. Isaiah Livers, who's over on the weak side guarding the guy in the weak side corner, he yells at Saban Lee immediately as soon as he sees that switch coming. Hey, scram, scram, scram. Saban Lee goes running to that corner, and Isaiah Livers is right there ready for the roller, so they don't get a mismatch out there. He's doing that to an absolute perfection, especially if the Pistons are going to play this switch-heavy defense that they played last year. You need people who are going to talk. You need people who are going to be able to read things coming beforehand and be able to avoid mismatches, which Isaiah Livers, not only did he do a great job last year, he's doing an even better job in the Summer League thus far. Purely exceptional. It's been amazing to watch. It's one of those little tiny things. Again, it doesn't show up in the box score, but it's one of those things that I'm sure team evaluators and the team, the coaching staff is watching, but nerds like me, I absolutely amazing, love seeing. It's great to see. So that kind of stuff is, like I just said, great to see. And also, he continues to move great without the basketball. He's not doing stuff that he can't do. He's not trying to be someone he isn't. That type of player is a player you want on your team, and a player that should play a lot of minutes for you. He knows how to play. He'll make the right pass every single time. He'll make the extra swing pass every single time. He talks on defense, communicates on defense, knows what should come next on defense before the offense knows what's coming next on their side. All those things combined with the fact that, he had a really good shooting game against the Washington Wizards, and the fact that, again, he just stays within himself. I really like that. A guy who can stay within himself is good for an offense. He doesn't need to go out there and try to prove himself. He's not out there, even in Summer League, trying to go out there and prove that he can be this and he can be that. No, he knows what he is. He knows what he's there to do, and he knows that's going to give him minutes in the NBA and what's going to make him a really good player in the NBA. And he stays within himself and just tries to perfect what he's good at. And I think he's showing that in the Summer League. He's been exceptional in Summer League. I think he's been the best, or maybe not the best player, even though I think he probably has an argument for that too. I think he's been the most impressive player for the Pistons Summer League. So Isaiah Livers, I think so far through 2 games, I think he's given his best audition possible to say, hey, you guys need spacing in the starting lineup. I'm also going to be a good defender. I'm going to talk and make sure everyone's communicating. I should be starting 4. I think he's given a great audition through 2 games to try to put that in the team's head. Last person we're going to talk about, and then we're going to end the podcast. Now, obviously, we're going to have Summer League happening throughout I believe, the next week, and then it wraps up. So we'll obviously continue talking about this. But Jalen Duren, he had 13 points, 6 rebounds this past game. There's one specific point about Jalen Duren's game that I'm going to talk about. It's not going to be the lobs, because we know he's doing great with the lob threats, finishing around the rim. he tries to dunk everything, which is either going to result in one, him getting a lot of posters and a lot of easy points, or two, he's going to get a lot of free throws. So that's good. You see that already. He just wants to dunk everything that he gets close to the rim, which is good. But I'm not going to talk about that too much. Not going to talk about his, like I said, his lob threats. Not going to talk about the fact that he's going to be a nice rim protector and that he's showing some promise on that end as when it comes to protecting the rim. He's trying to make me believe, and this was something that they on his scouting report, they talked about that he may have a part of his game and that could come to part of his game in the future, maybe not immediately. He's showing it already in the Summer League. And again, it is Summer League, so I'm not going to take it too crazy. But this is somewhat of the kind of thing I was talking about earlier in the podcast with Bruce Brown. I feel like this is something that you actually can see translate to the NBA from a Summer League. And that's his passing. His playmaking, his passing vision, his ability to read defenses from the high post as the hub of the offense, running DHOs. He's thrown some pretty nice passes and has made some reads on some backdoor cuts that not a lot of big men are able to do. And if you have one that's able to do it, it's incredibly valuable to your offense. And he's done that a few times. And if he can have that part of his offense immediately, along with the fact of him being a good roller to the rim, put pressure on the rim with his rolling gravity, along with him being able to protect the rim on the other end, obviously defense is going to be a really big work in progress for any rookie, especially a big man. That's the part where it takes the longest to develop. So I expect him to probably get a lot of blocks, but probably not be a great defender anyways. He'll get a lot of blocks, but I don't think he's going to be a good defender out the gate because there's a lot of other things that come to defense, not knowing when to jump, not jump, knowing when to help, not help, knowing when to show, when to drop coverage if they do run, all this kind of stuff. Very hard for a rookie big man. So I don't expect him to be a good defender, though I expect him to get block shots. However, if that passing is legit, something he can actually do out the gate from the high post, hitting guys on backdoors, being able to read a dribble handoff, when to give and when to pull, and then lob over the front, which he's done a few times. A guy just wraps around him. I saw him do that, I believe, in this last game against the Wizards. Guy wraps around him in a dribble handoff, and he just lobs it over to a guy. He's shown some legitimate passing chops. And if he's able to bring that to the Pistons offense, I think he was already going to make it hard on the coaching staff to not play him immediately. But if that part is legitimate and he brings that to training camp and preseason, I seriously don't know how you don't play him. Because then he's giving you something that no one else on your team can do. He's already giving you something on defense and offense that everyone on your front court, besides maybe Nerlens Noel, can give you. So Nerlens Noel is the only other guy that can probably give you that defense and lob threat, which, okay. But then if you also are saying that he's able to bring like passing chops at the high post in DHOs, all that kind of stuff, he's giving you something that your team doesn't have. And I think at that point, you're just going to have to roll with the shortcomings and the mistakes on defense. I think you're just going to have to roll with those because I think it's going to be really tough not to play him if passing is legit. So I wanted to give him some credit with that because that's something that I want you guys to watch for actually in this upcoming game, I believe on Tuesday, and the rest of Summer League. Watch him as a passer. If he continues to show that in Summer League and continues to do it more, I think it's going to be really tough and again, he's going to have to continue into training camp, obviously. It's just Summer League. But it's going to be hard to not play him if he's able to bring that. I want to see him continue to do it, though, in the Summer League. Either way, though, something I really love seeing from him. We're going to wrap up the podcast right there, though. Let me know what you guys' thought on Isaiah Livers and Jalen Duren's performances thus far in Summer League in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hillman. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast on our way to 5,000 subscribers. And until next time, I believe, there's going to be a game tonight. Enjoy the game. And until next time, we'll recap the game on the next podcast. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.